Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President. I've circulated the report, so I will not walk you through the entire report, but just limit myself to highlighting 4 points. One on the internal reform process, one on election observation, one on the Mediterranean dimension, and one on the situation of the OSCE and the current appointment of new leaders in the institutions of the OSCE. But before doing so, Madam President, I would like to say a word about the nature of this meeting and its participation. This meeting has proved to be one of the most successful meetings, one of the most popular meetings. I'm talking about the winter meeting. This year we have 55 delegations participating. We have 5 partners countries. We have around 500 participants. So I really would like to welcome you for participating in these big numbers. This is a particularly happy occasion also because I would like to welcome the Uzbek delegation here. As you have outlined, they have not been with us since 2003, so it's a big pleasure to have them here. And I would like also to stress your work, Madam President, the meeting you had with the Foreign Minister of Uzbekistan, encouraging them to come back, but also the work that Lord Bones has done with the Uzbek ambassador in London, and the work of Azerbaijan and Azayguliev in making contact at a higher level with the Uzbek authorities. All of these efforts have proved very useful, and we have the result that we have today. This winter meeting is an occasion for the parliamentarians also to interact with their ambassadors, with the governmental side, and this is something very positive, and we very much appreciate that you will hear tomorrow also reports from the heads of the different committees, the permanent council committees that will come and present their ideas about what they will do. But this is also the occasion when the parliamentary dimension meets the governmental dimension. And on this word, I would like to use the words of the last CIO, Minister Steinmeier, who is now President-elect Steinmeier. In his opening remarks at the ministerial meeting in Hamburg, besides praising your work, Madam President, he also said that the OSCE is not only the chair, and here I quote, not only the participating states or the secretariat here in Vienna, but it also is, and he said, it includes the Parliamentary Assembly, which is very highly regarded as the democratic backbone of our system, especially as regards election observation. So he called the Parliamentary Assembly the democratic pillar of our system, and I think this is something that we have to be proud of and try to maintain. On the 4 points, on the reform process, you have gone extensively. I will not say much more than that. My idea was in the first 6 months to set up staff rules and a code of conduct for our staff. This is in place since July. It's working well. Our staff has now cadre de référence, let's say, some basic rules under which they are employed by the Assembly, not by the Secretary General, and they have some more security. On the issues of financial rules and regulations, we have talked about it in Skopje already. It is my intention to give this Assembly some benchmarks on which you can judge the work of the Secretariat. You will see from the audited report there's a reference to the OSCPA practices, but there is nothing written. It's mainly the word of the Secretary General. I think this needs to be depersonalized. There has to be something in writing, like it's the practice in other international organizations, and exactly we are doing this with Gustavo. We are looking at the example of the OSCE, of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly in particular, so we will come up with a proposed set of financial rules and regulations that will then be approved by the Bureau meeting in Copenhagen, and hopefully on the 5th of July presented to the Standing Committee and becomes the basic rules on which we manage our finances. These rules are already something that we are implementing on our day-to-day life, so it's an important thing that it comes from you and not just that it comes from the goodwill of the International Secretariat. On election observation, I will not talk too much. We've heard the reports of all the special coordinators and all the head of delegations. I thank all those who have participated participated in election observations. We had 7 elections in 9 weeks. This was a record after the Skopje fall meetings. But we've managed with great work from Irina, Loic, the election team, Andreas Baker, Roberto Montella. So I'd like to thank all the staff who has worked, and of course all the members who have provided leadership or who have gone very far away to observe elections. One aspect of elections, it's been outlined by Kent Arsted, that we are developing now with very good cooperation with the ODIHR, is the follow-up. So we've always done just the observation, pre-electoral visits. Now we are trying to reinforce also the aspect of follow-up, mainly with the presentation of the ODIHR final report, and this is presented to the authorities normally 3-4 months after, and it depends. We're not going in every country, but where we think it's important to go and also give a kind of a political blessing of the document presented by the ODIHR head of mission. Also here I would like to commend Director Link. He is no longer going to be the director of the ODIHR. He has decided to end his term, but thanks to him and thanks to the fact that he's a former politician, so he understands the needs of a body like this, and I must say that the relations have improved. Of course, I think it's not up to me to say whether we have contributed from the International Secretariat, but I think a lot of credit also goes to Michael Link and to the fact that he was much more forthcoming towards the Parliamentary Assembly, and now, I mean, it's no longer news, so I don't need to repeat it every time, but the cooperation is excellent, and we hope that with the new director of ODIHR, this cooperation will continue to be excellent. On the Mediterranean dimension, just one word very quickly. We have not been extremely active as International Secretariat in the last year. Of course, we have our forum, we have our special representative, Monsieur Voisin, who has participated in some activities, but I think it's important for this assembly also to look more carefully at the Mediterranean dimension. I was in Istanbul recently. I met with the Secretary General of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, and we have discussed possibilities to interact and maybe without reinventing the wheel or without entering into the perimeters of other international organizations, but probably we can maybe find ways of cooperating more in order to maybe organize another election observation mission in one of the partner states, or maybe participate in some official visits and maybe also engaging more in the Mediterranean. This is an idea, of course, I'll launch here in the Standing Committee, but it's something that we are going to look at in the near future. Now, a final word on the OSCE situation, and then I will also give the floor to Ambassador Montella to come more into details on that. But on these OSCE institutions, we have the Secretary General of the OSCE, the Director of ODIHR, Freedom of the Media, and the High Commissioner for National Minorities. All these positions are about to become vacant or are already vacant with an acting person. And by, I think, the beginning of July, we should have 4 new people heading these organizations. We, as a Parliamentary Assembly, of course, want the organization to be strong. But on this, I want to say 3 very few and clear concepts. The responsibility to select officials is a responsibility of the Ministerial Council, of the governmental side. The Parliamentary Assembly has no role in selecting these figures. We are not like the Council of Europe, where we vote the Secretary General. We are aware that this is an intragovernmental organization. The business of choosing the individuals for these 4 positions is a responsibility of the Permanent Council, of the Ministerial Council. It's a governmental responsibility. And we are very well conscious of that, and we will not try to meddle into this. However, historically, the Parliamentary Assembly has always called for high-level political figures for these positions, because we think, as we've seen in the case of Michael Link, when you have somebody who has political experience, has capacity to pick up the phone and call a minister, this is good for the organization. It strengthens this organization. And I must say from, but Ambassador Montella will say more, but from the names that are circulated, somehow this is something that the Parliamentary Assembly has already won, if we like to have a Parliamentary Assembly sort of stake in this. I mean, we have already won because we can see from all the candidates, somehow the level of candidature is being more and more becoming at that level of political, let's say, levature. No? However, that said, that we are staying out of this and that we like higher political, we should not shy away from the fact that there are two senior members of our bureau, namely President Emeritus Ilkka Kanerva and Vice President Kent Arsted, who are respectively running for President, for Secretary General of the OSCE and for Director of the ODIHR. They visited me in Copenhagen. We spoke about this. Of course, we wish them well. Again, for the sake of their own campaign, I will not try to label them as PA candidates because this would not be truthful to their history, because they're not only members of the PA, but they have a history beyond the PA and a big experience, so they should not be labeled as the PA candidates. But of course, we wish them well and they're a friend. And I thought it was better to just simply open and talk about it rather than, subtly send messages and discuss this. So these are the 3 points, but Ambassador Montella, maybe you want to add more.